to organize materials in this way. Syllabi are required. Other things are really up to you, whatever you decide to add to your dossier that highlights your strengths and commitment as a teacher would be appropriate. Same with scholarship, chapters, conference papers, grants, peer-reviewed articles, of course, will be the important subfolder there, and a bunch of PDFs. So you'll just be uploading, creating those documents, upload, drop them in there, and really that's all you'll be doing in those categories. Again, it's fairly straightforward, but a lot of work really just for converting PDFs and uploading. Assigned duties. Now 8 and 9, I mentioned your chair or director might ask you to do a little bit of work here. They're responsible for the accuracy of the material, but usually chairs have access to these spreadsheets from which we have used the format for reporting your course loads. So here what the CFSC or the DFSC want to know is what you've taught, how the courses count, enrollment, whether or not you've supervised student research and so forth. So this is what will go in section 8, what you've done here as an instructor at ISU. And in folder 9, student feedback on teaching. As you know, one of the criterion for assessing your qualifications as an instructor has to do with student feedback. So there has to be some summary of student feedback. And here's what we ask for. A narrative describing student reactions to courses taught. Now this really should be done by chair or the DFSC. And then some statistical data if that's appropriate. And there's a suggested template. Now, sometimes applicants are asked by their directors or chairs to compile the statistics. But again, the chair or the DFSC has to certify the accuracy of the statistics you provide. Not that you aren't trusted, but apparently you're not trusted. So that's why 8 or 9, there might be a bit of a division of labor, but ultimately the chair or director is responsible for certifying the accuracy of that information. Then your external letters that come in from those reviewers will go in folder number 10. Again, the names and contents will be confidential unless a waiver has been signed. The DFSC or SFSC's recommendation, in other words, its letter supporting or not supporting your promotion, will go into folder number 11. There will be a candidate statement of review for the CFSC to read if you choose to submit that. So you get your DFSC letter. Here's your response. Here's what you want the CFSC to know about that particular recommendation before your dossier goes to the CFSC level. And then the last item requested are the annual letters of evaluation that the chair or director will upload. Just a quick note, the provost, by the way, only sees the provost application form, the cover letter to the provost, your CV, which we've skipped, but it's fairly straightforward. The recommendations from the DFSC, SFSC, and the CFSC, and then annual letters only for people going up for tenure and promotion. So a lot of this material is really for your home unit as well as for the CFSC, and the artifacts in particular don't go up to the provost office. And I forgot one thing, and that's the external letters of evaluation will go to the provost office in arts and sciences. Any questions about those folders before we leave them? But that's the bulk of the work there. That's what you do by November 1st. You complete your folders 1 through 7. No, okay. Must be nice outside there. And I don't know, it's nice here. Okay, let's go back to the presentation. Okay, so November 1st, you've submitted your materials. What happens after that?
Hey, Tony.
Yes.
Hey, Tony, excuse me. Cassie does have a question.
Apologies. Took me a moment to find the button to raise my hand. So I am curious about what we can submit as documentation of our teaching, given that we all now have these developed online courses, which seem like a very clear portrayal of our approach to teaching and what we do in our courses. But obviously those can't be reduced down to PDFs. Is it the case that everything needs to be able to be put into one of these folders, or are there ways that we could share some of the material that we've developed over this past year?
Gosh, that's a good question. It's an excellent one. So definitely a sign of the times, and one we haven't necessarily anticipated, have we, Diane? I mean, often faculty can submit videos. They just provide the link, and those go into the folders as links.
Yeah, that's what I would say. In Cassie, if there are assignments that you've developed or case studies you've developed, whatever can be PDF, that's great. But otherwise, if it's more experiential, the video link, or I think if you have a question like that, or you have artifacts like that, I think it would be really important to talk to your chair, maybe your DFSC, because their expectation of what they're, how they're going to receive it, it would be really important. So, and if the DFSC, the CFSC, we're going to take our lead pretty significantly from the DFSC. If they consider it appropriate presentation within your disciplinary domain, we'll see to that.
Yeah, Cassie, we'll make it happen. I'm not the technical whiz who can necessarily understand at this point the mechanism by which you submit those materials, but if they're important and need to be submitted, we will get them to the CFSC and the DFSC in appropriate ways. Just like we say, submit a book or a work of art, creative work, if it can't be turned into a PDF, or video links are fairly common, but so we'll make it happen.
Thank you.
So after November 1st, and again, some of you aren't going up in the fall, so you'll have plenty of time to forget this material, and it's not all that important, but just to give a sense of the flow, the workflow of what happens after November 1st. There's a lot of waiting because there are a number of stages of review. The DFSC or SFSC will work on your case until December 15th, at which point it issues its recommendation to you and the CFSC. Then the CFSC has your materials up through March 1st, and then it goes to the provost, and the provost has till March 21st, and then everything goes up to the president. And you'll get these dribbles of your letters over time, and by the time you get promoted, it's anticlimactic because you've been waiting so long. So just a couple of words about each of the stages. Your dossier will be at the SFSC or DFSC from November 1st to December 15th. Your application is ongoing, so if you get a publication December 1st, yes, it can be uploaded. It will be included in your application. So that goes, that's the case throughout the process. So it's ongoing. If you need to change something, you of course have been excluded from your SharePoint site because it's got confidential letters in there. The chair or director can upload materials on your behalf and would of course notify you and me that things have been added to that. So the DFSC or SFSC has to issue an initial recommendation, yes or no, by December 1st. And then there's a period of 10 days or so in which you can request a formal hearing to discuss that recommendation. Even if it's positive, you can say, hey, but you know, you didn't emphasize this enough, or I don't think the case is made strongly enough for my teaching. You can request a formal meeting, and then the DFSC or SFSC may or may not change its final recommendation by December 15th. But December 15th is the date at which the DFSC has to complete its work. It'll issue the majority recommendation. There could be a chair or director recommendation if that person is in the minority. It's required if the chair is not in the majority, they have to write a chair letter. And then a minority letter is something else that's different, but it's the other DFSC or SFSC members who are in the minority can issue a minority report. So theoretically, you could have 3 reports coming out of your unit: chair, director, SFSC, DFSC, and then a separate minority report. Very rare, but pay attention because there's going to be a quiz here in a few minutes. And then you can issue that statement of review by December 15th. The same process happens at the level of the CFSC. Now, the CFSC is not an appeals body. You don't appeal the DFSC recommendation to the CFSC. The CFSC has its own level of review. It's a separate level of review. But I think Diane would mention that, you know, they are not the disciplinary experts, and therefore they hew very closely to your own disciplinary standards in issuing its recommendations. Basically, the CFSC decides, you know, looks at the DFSC and says, hey, did they apply their standards in the appropriate manner. The CFSC issues an initial recommendation by February 1st. You can have that formal meeting sometime in the month of February, and then there's that final recommendation to the provost, to the candidate, and to your unit by March 1st. And again, there could be a separate dean report if the dean is in the minority, and so forth, okay? If you have a negative recommendation, either by the DFSC, CFSC, chair, director, or the dean, you can appeal those 4 recommendations to the FRC, the Faculty Review Committee, okay? That's the appeals body for tenure and/or promotion cases. Now, it's important to note you can only appeal a recommendation if you've first had a formal meeting with that body. So if your DFSC says no, you can't take it to the FRC a few months later unless you've had that initial formal hearing with your home unit. Okay? So you're not done yet. Still have to wait to hear from the provost and the president, and that takes place by May 15th. And if you look at Appendix 4 of the your Choral ASPT book, this really just gives you the flow chart of what I've just gone through after November 1st. Appendix 1 contains the actual calendar of some of those dates I've mentioned and so forth. So again, know your ASPT documents, and that's where you can find your information there. And then finally, May 15th, hopefully you're celebrating, but of course there are no guarantees for tenure and/or promotion. It's a diverse and attractive group of corporate hench persons in there. All right, here's the quiz. See if you've been paying attention. I think you're going to get 1 of 2 correct. So what's the minimum number of reports or recommendations that the president would receive when considering your application? So the minimum number of reports, and then the maximum number of reports. All right, everybody got their, let's hear some numbers. Whoops. How about the minimum? That's an easier one.
I don't know if you can see chat, Tony, but Shelby's saying minimum of 3. Danica said 3. Georgia said 1 and 1. It's certainly 1 and 1 that counts. And Cassie's saying 3, and Paya's saying 3.
All right. Well, the threes are correct.
Rebecca's saying
DFSC, CFSC, and the provost. Right. Those 3 are the minimum, and then maximum could be 8, even though it would almost never occur. 3 at a couple of levels.
Becky said 8.
Who got 8?
Rebecca said 8.
Oh, excellent. Wow, that's very, very impressive, because I wouldn't have gotten that right if I wasn't goofing around here trying to trying to mess people up. So like I said, go for 3, right? Slam dunk cases are always the best, and that's what we're shooting for. Okay, that's all I've got. Do you have any questions?
You know what, while you're thinking of questions, I would just say, you know, we have to show you kind of the whole continuum of the process. And it might feel unwieldy when you kind of, but literally you just take, you know how you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time, right? And that's how you do tenure and promotion portfolio.
Right, any of that information after November 1st, you know, if it was relevant, we'd talk about it at the appropriate time.
I have a question that may be a selfish question, but I know Danica is going up for full too. This looks like the process for tenure and promotion is exactly the same, which is cool. But am I missing something significant that going up for promotion has to do?
No. You fill out the application a little bit differently because usually you'll only indicate things that you've done since your promotion to associate professor.
Yeah.
But otherwise, there's really no difference that I can think of. Can you, Diane?
No, I can't. No, you know, as you say, Tony, you're going to submit material since your previous promotion, and then on the application form, you know, you fill in it a little bit differently. You have different dates, et cetera. But no, it's all the same documents, external letters, the same, et cetera.
Cool, thank you.
Can you even clarify that more? Because if you're saying since your previous promotion, I'm thinking of where that cutoff line is. Because, you know, you submit for tenure and promotion, and then that time frame. So I'm just thinking, does that make sense? It's like, where exactly is that cutoff line? Is it from the actual end of that academic year? Is it from the initial submission? And I'm thinking publication wise.
Yeah, that's a good question, Danica. And Tony, the way I would answer that, but Tony's always smarter at this than I am. I would say your tenure year. So you'll have a tenure, like the letter that you get from the provost, you know, or the president in May, and then your tenure goes into effect that next August when we start our new contract. So it'll be that tenure promoted year.
So even with that, when I think of the tenure year, I'm thinking publications. So what was counted then and what came in after that? I don't know if that makes sense.
My chair said to me was if it went in on my CV for tenure as like I was going up for tenure, then I couldn't count it for promotion. But if it showed up on my CV after I submitted for tenure, then fine. But that's what Steve said.
Yeah, yeah.
I would agree with that, yes. If you had something published that didn't count for your promotion to associate, maybe it happened in the summer before the August 16th at which your tenure designation would take effect, I would still count it, and you know, you can mention that in your application.
Yes, so because
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
If there's between November and August 16, that November 1 to August 16, that's almost a year. So nothing would go in the hole, right? If we have something that come up after we submit.
Well, if you had something that hit BIBIC between November 1st and December 15th, you could still revise it up to the point that the department, DFSC, SFSC are looking at it, revise it. But then after Tony, would you say after the December 15th date, would it not make it in the consideration?
Well, it would, because then you'd send it to me instead of to the chair, and we could, if you wanted the CFSC to know about it. You know, if you think you need that publication to make it absolute slam dunk, then you can include it. You might want to put it in your back pocket, and if it comes in after December, and save it for your application for full, I think.
Yeah, you know, and you make a good point there, Tony. Do we not, or have we not all done this strategically, you know, with our annual evaluations about the timing of when a pub might come out, if we have any influence over that? You might be really gold in one year, but you're going to need something in the next. And sometimes we might strategically time those. And so Tony, you're saying that if your tenure promotion is solid and there's something that comes out after December 15th, you might choose to hold it over as a count when you want to go up for full promotion.
Yep. Yeah, was that to me?
Oh, yeah, it was just sort of rhetorically speaking. Would you agree or not agree, Tony?
I would agree. I wouldn't hide things before November 1st or so forth, but yeah, as Vivek said, there's, a long period between, the application and the beginning of your tenure, August the next year, and things happen, and those should be included in your promotion to full if they haven't been included in your application to associate.
Becky's saying, if you have a solid case, save things. I made a mistake and submitted a couple extra things in December that I really wish I had now for promotion. You're what I'm talking about, Rebecca.
Yeah, I actually, when I was first considering going up for full, I, just counted like, okay, accepted after, and then I found the email where I resubmitted my CV with 2 more pubs on it that I wish I'd had for
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
My experience watching CFSC deliberate for 2 years, I think they've been very fair in making sure things count. Just they want to ensure that things haven't been double counted.
Thank you.
One of the questions we seem to usually get is how much stuff should I put in those folders, right? And it's an excellent question, an obvious one, and there's no easy answer, right? I guess it's enough to showcase your stuff. I mean, if you've got 15 peer-reviewed articles and your requirements are to have 5, you've tripled the requirement, and that's probably more than enough. Some people want to showcase everything they've got, and that's fine too. I would just recommend organizing it in such a way that it doesn't overwhelm your SFSC or the CFSC. The CFSC this year had what, Diane, 26 cases?
I think so, yeah.
And last year 21. And so therefore, the likelihood of all 7 members going through every single document in your service portfolio, if you've got 500 documents in there, it's pretty unlikely. It's really going to be your local unit that's going to go over things the most carefully in terms of your artifacts. So put in there what you're proud of and what you think makes your case, but just give the CFSC the signpost so that it can really organize and sift through the information easily enough to really get to the heart of your case.
If I can make a plug, if you're in the queue where you're working towards full professor, we really now look for you to be a senior, well-rounded citizen. It will show up in your scholarship. Your scholarship will probably have ascended to a little bit higher scope and scale, and that you're more of a national and perhaps even international expert. We expect, your teaching has certainly evolved and become more sophisticated. But we do also ask, we've got that third leg of the stool here, service, and we have a very robust model of shared governance here at the university. I don't know that there's ever been a failed promotion case on this, but we do look at, and how have you served your citizenship? Have you moved from service out of just a few token committees within the department? Are you starting to be visible in a larger scale, maybe at a college committee, maybe a university committee, maybe leadership in your professional discipline, that sort of thing. So if the promotion to full, service is not just an also ran. It has a little bit more weight, I guess I would say. And then once you're promoted to full, you're a full senior citizen, and we're going to come looking for you to serve on all important committees.
Oh gosh. Can you speak a little bit to the impact of scholarships, like if there's pubs that are either accepted but not in print or under review and how that plays a role?
Mhm. Yeah. My take on this, Tony, is again, we're going to look to the DFSC review and how they're, because each of our ASPT documents might identify this and document and codify this a little bit differently. In my well, in our department, Danica, we allow the scholar to say when I'm going to take this. Am I going to take it when I get the acceptance letter, or am I going to take it when it comes in print? But you only get to take it at one of those places, right? So, so that's one thing I would say. So if it's accepted in press, on the CFSC, I think we would look to see how the DFSC counts that. Is that a fait accompli now? It's in press, but not in pub yet. Under review for us at the CFSC will be evaluated much like at a DF or SFSC, that it shows progress. It shows kind of a trajectory, but it's not a pub yet, you know, but it does show work in progress. You know, and that work in progress is important, Danica, because, you know, particularly if somebody's going up for full, we're going to want to see this patterned, sustained progression till they're bid for full. I'll throw myself under the bus here as a not a positive example. Okay, after I was promoted, for one thing, I went through some big life changes. Wink, wink. Some of you know what I mean by that. And then I got tapped to be interim chair for the sociology department and then the history department. And I had only been out from tenure promotion just a couple of years, right? So I stalled there, right? And so then I got back in my own department. I kicked it back into gear, and then started having, you know, 1 and 2 and 3 a year. And when I went to my dean at that time, Greg Simpson, he had said, well, Diane, you've got more than the 4 years here in rank, obviously, you know, but you got these first 3, almost 4 years of stall. And now I can see you've kicked it in gear, but I think we're going to need 1 more year to show this progression, this sustained progress, right? So those works in progress, Danica, you know, under review or even a work in progress can help paint that story of, I'm not stalled. I'm a scholar. I'm working on things.
Diane, when the CFSC looks at a dossier, you know, there's dozens of folders and thousands of pages. Do you want to comment on what things, you know, you hone in on in that dossier with 12 folders?
Yeah. The first place I go when I'm looking is I'll go right to the application and I'll look at the dates. It's, you know, do we meet the requisite stipulated codified dates for how long somebody's been in, or do they have years brought in if it's a T&P sort of thing, or is it going to be an early, you know? And if it's an early, then we're going to, you know, take a different lens, a little bit nuanced lens of this, you know, so that's one thing. Probably the second place I go to then is the DFSC SFSC letter. That gives me a really good overview and context of how the expert peers in that discipline are seeing this person. We'll look at that. Certainly I'll look at the CV to kind of see what the trajectory has been over the career. And then frankly, external letters do weigh considerably for us at the CFSC. And we're a little bit unique in the College of Arts and Sciences because external letters are not required in the entire university, and other colleges may not require them. We require them. And I think they're an exceptional barometer for us because on your CFSC, you may have no one from your discipline on the CFSC to understand the context of your publication and your teaching and your record. And so having these experts from outside look in on this and say, yeah, this person, they would achieve this level at my university. So it's a good relative context for us. Those are the important pieces for me. What did I miss, Tony?
No, I think that usually covers it. I think a number of CFSC members go to the annual letters.
Annual
the
letters.
Summaries, right, just to see, if the trajectory has been there on an annual basis and so forth. But even that gets summarized usually in the DFSC, SFSC recommendation.
I will say when we've gotten into CFSC discussions, and Becky, have you been on the CFSC, or were you on council? You were on the CFSC, right?
I was on SFFC. I haven't been on CFFC.
Oh, okay, okay. It's really a privilege and a delight when you get to a position that you will serve on the CFSC, because it is absolutely amazing when you see the scholarship of people in this university that you would not maybe normally cross their path. And like this year, there were a number of cases that our CFSC members read those portfolios and said, oh my gosh, I am just stunned by the caliber of people we have here. I can remember one particular case. Everybody on the CFSC said, wow, I want to meet this guy. This is really interesting, So you're going to have, your ears will be ringing when your case is being heard by the CFSC, because they're going to be saying that about you.
So is there anything where like from your experience, applicants stumble the most, something like to watch out for in the application process, or writing, which one, something that is consistently undercooked, let's say, or underprepared, anything we could watch out for?
Yeah. The first thing I would say, Vivek, is what we've already said, and that work with your chair and get more than the minimum of 3 letters, if at all possible, because that can be a stumbling place. Well, I would just say it can inject some doubt in your case if one of the letters is, like I say, tepid. And it might just be that that particular writer is cranky, and they are just by personality critical, but we can't know that. So make sure you get more than 3 letters. I would say, proof everything if it's messy. And Tony has said a very strong case for organization in the SharePoint site. If things are just sort of disorganized and then your committees have to work really hard, that's annoying. So just, nice, neat folders and that sort of thing. What other stumbling blocks, Tony?
Not sure it causes the application to stumble as much as provokes lengthy conversations. As you said, regarding service, there's sometimes a sense that people don't care about service, or it's an afterthought, or it doesn't matter. And I think that really can irk the CFSC and say, hey, are we going to promote this person who doesn't seem to provide any citizenship to the university and so forth. And similar with teaching, even more so, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Tony, when you talk about teaching, if you're going up for full professor, we're probably going to want to see a little bit more sophistication and advancement in your teaching, that you've moved beyond I just teach my classes and I go home. We're going to want to see if you've done some directed research, some independent studies, some master's thesis, dissertation thesis, that sort of thing, that you're engaged at a much higher, more mentoring level with our students. We're going to look for if you have any engagement with CTLT and sort of the whole scholarship of teaching and learning, that you are reflective about your teaching, and it's not just a very staid pattern, that you have actually, how you've improved your classes and how you've engaged in learning more about teaching and that sort of a thing.
Thank you.
We've got just a couple of minutes. Any other last minute questions?
And I'll just point out that there's nothing sacred about the May 15th date for SharePoint sites. If you need to have one earlier, I can easily arrange that. That's not an ASPT deadline. It's just an internal CAS administrative deadline, sort of the end of the semester. People are thinking about tenure and promotion and time for SharePoint site. So anytime you need that application or SharePoint site, just let me know and I'll set that up within a day or two, as long as you have the green light from your chair or director.
And I want to finish with a, as I say, this might seem a little bit daunting when we look at it from the whole continuum. You are not alone. Seek advice and wisdom and direction from your chair and any mentors in your DFSC. And then once things are moving into the CFSC level, Tony is the person on our team that is available for consultation. If you're like, well, or, you know, during the whole process, I'm not sure about the SharePoint place here or there. What do I do? This is not a situation where it's for us to know and you to find out. We want to make sure that you're successful and we'll supply whatever consultation we need, you know, in terms about the process and that sort of thing.
And I'll have access to your sites and I make sure things are in order, or if there's 100 typos in your application, I'll point them out to you. And, or if you forget a service statement, I'll say, hey, you know, it looks pretty bad if you don't have a service statement because it seems like you don't care about it. So I'll do my best to help you present your case in a positive manner. But again, don't hesitate to ask me any questions about the process, and I'm here to help.
If there are no other questions, I would just express my thanks to Tony for putting this together and for always being available to help people through this process. And I would invite you to have an excellent weekend. You've deserved it. So,
Thank you so much.
bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.